We're joined now by Professor Allan Saxe from the University of Texas at Arlington. And Professor, this is Mike Pence's first trip overseas. How do you rate him so far?
I think he's doing very well. He just concluded on Monday morning a news conference in Brussels, which is the headquarters of NATO, and he answered the questions very well. He studies the answers and responds accordingly. I think it was a very good choice of President Donald Trump to send Vice President Trump as an emissary to Europe to do, first of all, to tell the Europeans in NATO, we support them, we're part of NATO, and will continue to be. And secondly, we support the European Union, but allow the other countries to do its own will. So if the UK, England wants to leave, that's their choice. France, the Netherlands, other countries are having debates over the same thing we're having debates over, immigration. And it's becoming a big issue in France, a big issue in Belgium, a big issue in Germany. And but we'll let those countries do their own thing. So I think that the Vice President was very, very good in his reassurance and also allowing the European countries to do their thing. He wants them to pay a little bit more money for NATO and also to develop their own domestic security as well.
Yeah, I wonder about that. Donald Trump seemed to say a lot during the campaign. We're going to make NATO pull their own weight. They're not pulling their own weight. He's made some of the same comments about the United Nations. And, he's a negotiator, so he goes big and then tries to get what he thinks he can get. Do you think that's what this is about?
And that could very well be his tactic in this, that he goes big and then calms it down a little bit. And we'll have to see how he does in regard to Europe and NATO. But we're not going to get out of NATO by any means. But I think a lot of people would admit that the European countries in NATO should pay a little bit more. In fact, the reason that they're able to spend so much money on their domestic affairs, a welfare system, if you will, democratic socialism, Bernie Sanders' wish, is that we defend them. So we make up so much of their defense mechanism that they don't have to. And I think we want them to pick up a little bit more of the chore in that.
Yeah, that's just what Donald Trump supporters were wanting as well, I'm sure. Well, let me bring you back domestically for a minute. I listened with some interest this weekend to all of the weekend political shows as the reporters went on and on about Donald Trump insulting the media. Do you think he went too far in his comments about the media?
I don't think he should have made the comment, the media is the enemy of the people. I don't think that was, I think that was a little bit over the top. However, the media is not used to scrutiny. The media is not used to the intense criticism that seems to be coming from the presidents of the United States. So the media has to recognize they have a role under the First Amendment, and so does everyone else. The courts have ruled that the media has no greater standing in the First Amendment than do the rest of the American people, including the president. So the president, I think, can criticize them, but they're not used to it. And that's why the press, I think, has really fought back very strongly about this, and it's something that they have not been used to. They're yelling, they're screaming about that there's a dictatorship in the offing. That's my words, not theirs. Although John McCain, who is in Europe, seemed to echo that this is the way dictatorships start, by an assault on the media. We're far from that. But I do think the media does need to be criticized. It is very partisan. That's not just an idle expression. That can be proven somewhat by their donations to various candidates. I remember a scene on the George Stephanopoulos show on ABC about a year ago when the topic of Donald Trump running for the presidency came up. Most of the people at that round table on ABC television were just hysterical. Donald Trump, what? And George Stephanopoulos was laughing, and others were laughing and gaping, and yet he's president. But I think that reveals the partisanship of the media and how they regard certain political personalities.
Yeah.
So President Trump is very critical of them, and the press has to understand They are in no way above the rest of us.
But I love that comparison. I heard the president in his comments in Florida this weekend refer to some of the issues past presidents had with the media dating back to the earliest part of the founding of our country.
Absolutely. Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, all the American presidents in more recent years, Harry Truman, really let the press have it. But Donald Trump, I think, has taken it to a whole new level. But that's okay. I'm not afraid of it. We're a free country. In fact, I teach on a college campus, and I encounter some students. This is to be scared of. I'm not scared of the students, but their ideas. I've encountered some students who do not believe in free speech, and I believe that's true on some other major college campuses as well. That's not the majority of the students, thank goodness, but it's a few, and I wonder where they get this idea from that some people are not entitled to free speech. We all are, as long as it doesn't reach a crescendo of threatening somebody personally. The courts have allowed unfettered free speech, especially political speech, which is the most protected under the First Amendment as far as court interpretation is concerned.
Well,
by the way, the media it should also be held under a microscope for not what they report, but what they do not report. Some critics have said that during President Obama's administration for 8 years, that the media did not do its job as vociferously, as strongly, as perhaps they're doing now under President Trump. I don't know whether that is true or not. I know they were critical of President Obama, but I'm not sure that it's to the degree that they are with Mr. Trump so far. And the press conferences with President Obama seem to be a lot more lighthearted, and they didn't take him to task. They did on some of the talk shows that they did. No question about that in some of the roundtables. But at the press conferences, it seems they really let him have his way.
Yeah. Since you brought up the campus situation, I have to ask, because we saw what happened at the University of California at Berkeley recently.
Correct.
How much blame do the administrators need to bear for that? Because we had problems at the University of Missouri as well. And
I think the administrators, and this is my own idea, we have not had anything like that on our campus, thank goodness. But on other campuses, and I'm just guessing, the administrators are fearful. They don't want to upset the boat. And essentially, they're letting many of the students run the show. That's just my impression. They don't want any demonstrations against them. They want to keep things as calm as they can. I'm using the word calm in quotation marks. The same thing happened in the Vietnam days, when many college campuses, especially the most elite ones, actually let their students out. Now, this is during Vietnam, to demonstrate.
Right.
And I think also political correctness has dominated college campuses so much that they just don't want to do anything that could accuse them of being racist, Islamophobic, sexist, or whatever. So I would say that many administrators possibly come down more on the side of the students than they do, and also the professors are with the students as well.
Sure.
So the professors and the administrators, I'm overgeneralizing, are on the side of the students and the demonstrations more than perhaps any other side.
Professor Allan Saxe, University of Texas at Arlington, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it very much.